For most of the planet, there's been a giant plot twist this year, COVID-19. And this is how stories work, though, isn't it? Is that you're going along and then suddenly there's a huge plot twist. There's a deus ex machina. There's something that comes from outside that changes how the story goes. It changes the flow of the story. And I find it quite interesting that, during this time of lockdown, uh, one of the most interesting aspects going on is a square, that's a right angled aspect, between Venus in Gemini and Neptune in Pisces. Now, and you could say that square is like a plot twisty square. Why? Because Venus in Gemini is about art, the art of storytelling, the art of lying, some people would say. And Neptune in Pisces, which Neptune has been in Pisces for years now, but we've seen an incredible explosion of storytelling. I would suggest, that Netflix and Amazon Prime, and we've had incredible television. We've had incredible an explosion of fantastic storytelling and incredible music making in the last 10 years. I hope you have been enjoying it, because who knows the next time that we'll be able to go to a concert or see live theater. But anyway, so we've got Neptune in Pisces, which has been a fantastic expansion of the arts. And we've got Venus in Gemini right now, and they're making this square aspect. Now, of course, they do this every year, but this year it's really important because Venus turns retrograde in Gemini, and she will make this aspect to Neptune 3 times. So we're in a period of Venus squaring Neptune now. She made her first, I'm just going to type out here. Yeah, she squared Neptune when she was direct on the 4th of May. She's going to square Neptune again on the 20th of May. And then she's going to square Neptune again on the 27th of July. So that's the three hits that they have. And I don't even like the word hits. It's more like they're doing a dance or a beautiful waltz or maybe a bossa nova back and forth. They're doing this dance, these two planets, which are the planets they're considered to have an affinity because they're both planets of love and art. Venus has an association with money as well, but we'll come to that in a minute. But of love and art. The higher and lower, people would say, astrologers might say that Neptune is more spiritual love or more boundless love, love of God, and Venus may be a more earthy love or more, personal, more social. Venus is also about sociability, of course. Now these two are there's this square is mutable signs. So and these are both signs that are associated with, they're both dual signs, associated with things switching back and forth. And with, I have to say it, but with lying or things that aren't quite true, with illusions. And you've got the planet of illusion, which is Neptune, very, very powerful in Pisces. So one thing during this period I think is that you do need to be careful about what people are saying, and really I wouldn't believe anything anybody was saying. We're going to be in a bit of a fog. One of the things about this fog is it's like a fairyland, okay, which is fantastic for those of us who love being in fairyland, who like to be in the world of the imagination, the world of stories. I'm going to be getting down my Andrew Lang fairy books, the different colored ones, the red fairy book and so on, who love to be in that world of glamour and fairy and escapism. This is a fantastic period that we're going to have. However, for situations where the truth is really important, like when you're in the middle of a pandemic, this can be a bit iffy. So I would be, and it could be that promises are made that can't be kept, if you see what I mean. So people will think, oh, it's all going to be fine, or there'll be that kind of promise. So it's la la land, yeah. Speaking of La La Land, this is also a fantastic transit. You square, okay, it's a harsh transit, but actually these two planets have an affinity, and the two signs are, because it's a mutable square, it's a more flowing square, and it gets things going. It's a fantastic square for anybody who's working with photography or who works in films. You might not be able to make your incredible movie with 200 extras, but you can fantasize it or you can do it in a different way. So this is an extraordinarily creative aspect in terms of how we tell stories, how we communicate, and how we communicate in this new and strange world. How do you draw people in? Just on a note, so I'm quite excited by it. I like it. It's the one of the things you need to know is that this square happens at 20 degrees each time. 20 degrees, 20 degrees, 20 degrees. So if you have any planets around there, especially in Gemini and Pisces, obviously, but also in Sagittarius and Virgo, these are all going to be um, stimulated by this exciting square, and also in the air and water signs too. So that's half the zodiac is going to be feeling this definitely. Um, and frankly, when you have something that's as strong as this, even if it's an inconjunct, it can trigger stuff. Um, and when it's also consistently, it's at the same degree over and over again. It's not even moving a bit. Um, in fact, the retrograde one on the 20th of May and the other one on the 27th of July are at the same degree in the same minute. So it's hardly moving at all. It's just blowing away all the boundaries that there are around whatever 20 degrees Pisces means to you or 20 degrees Gemini. So have a look at um, where those are in your chart. Those signs. What are they doing in your chart? Um, there could be some very expansive stuff. And since Venus is involved, I I do like it, except when it comes to authorities telling the truth or money. There may be issues with vanishing money or with, I'm not a financial astrologer, so this is not my thing. But just generally, I don't think it's great for money stuff. Um, right. Well, enjoy our little trip, our long trip into Fairyland, because this lasts from now until July. That's the period that we're now entering with this Venus retrograde. We're going, and literally with the Venus retrograde, not literally, that's rubbish because this is all metaphorical. This is astrology. Metaphorically, with a Venus retrograde, you're always going down under. What's that? That's the journey under the hill that I have written about before. But when Venus goes retrograde, she goes into the underworld, and she goes into different kinds of underworlds with different retrogrades. So, Scorpio retrograde, that's quite scary stuff. But Venus retrograde in Gemini is Venus going under the hill. She's going into if you know anything about fairy lore, fairies live, according to certain traditions, under a hill. Yeah. And if you're very lucky or possibly unlucky, depending on how you look at it, you can be seduced by a fairy and taken under the hill. You have to be really careful when you go there, because if not to eat anything, um, and also your vision can be very very confused when you're under the hill, so that you actually believe that you're seeing this incredible fairy palace with lace and satin and silk everywhere, and actually suddenly the veil can be lifted from your eye, or you can see properly. You see the real thing, and you realize that everybody's a bunch of horrible trolls, and that actually the peach that you're about to eat is rotten, and that it's not, those plates are not gold, but they're just broken crockery. And that's a possibility, that kind of um, illusion. The contrast between illusion and reality can be that wide during this period. And the Venus retrograde in Gemini takes us under that hill into the land of the fairies, where there are beautiful things like amazing music, but you can um, dance until your shoes break, until you wear your shoes through, if you're not careful, and you can get swept away by the magic of fairy, whatever that means to you. I mean, you can see that there's a whole kind of drug thing with that, or an alcohol thing, being completely swept away. And I think that with the square to Neptune, this fantasy and illusion is even more amazing and powerful this time around. This particular Venus retrograde in Gemini is just, uh, it overarches this summer in a way that is kind of fascinating. So if you're a creative person, like if that's your job, uh, it could be very good, because the other thing that you can find when you go under the hill is you may come back with a little tiny pot of magic yourself, where you may come back with the magic ring or the potion. Um, the other thing to be careful of course, as you know from, for example, Rip Van Winkle, is if you go under the hill into fairyland, your sense of time can get lost, and you may find that you're there much longer than you thought you would be. Just like this um, video, which has turned out to be much longer than I thought it would be. See you next time.